Hello. This is very dangerous for me.
This is Amanda LaPlante. You're listening to Get Real to Heal on KWRH-LP 92.9 FM. And with me today, I'm very excited to have a very special guest, somebody I am a huge fan of, Justine Froelker. And did I say your last name?
You
right?
did. I was just
right.
going to say, yes. She said it right. I always tell people, like, just say Justine. Don't call me Justin, and we're good. Because I've been called Justin my whole life.
Yeah, you know, I coached cheerleading at a local high school. We had a Justine on the team, so I got that right. Got to get it right. Yeah. Cool. Well, hey, before we jump in, we've got some amazing things to talk about. Your story is incredible. Your accomplishments are many, and I'm very excited to have you on here to share your wisdom today.
Thank you.
Before we jump in, I want to give a quick shout out. There is an awesome event going on in town this weekend on January 18th at the HealthWorks Kids Museum. I always want to say children's, but it's HealthWorks Kids Museum. Amazing place downtown. And if you go to Eventbrite, you can grab some tickets. It's the Art of Natural Healing Episode 1 docuseries that's being premiered in the theater there. And that stars Dr. Asia Muhammad, Dr. Krishna Muhammad, and it was produced by Angela Lamb, an award-winning documentarian here in town. It's really going to be amazing. We've got talks by Dr. Michael Twyman and a few others that day, so go out and check that out. Grab your tickets on Eventbrite for that. And Get Real to Heal is underwritten by AFC Urgent Care at South Brentwood Boulevard in Litzinger. Urgent Care is in their name, but they also offer family care services. The next time that your kid's spouse or an elderly member of your family, anyone really needs to see a physician, remember AFC Urgent Care. They're open beyond physicians' traditional office hours and will allow you to avoid a long, expensive visit to the ER. They can even do x-rays, lab tests in-house, and visit AFC Urgent Care 7 days a week, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. weekdays, and 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. on weekends. And check them out at afcurgentcare.com/Brentwood. All right, Justine Froelker. You walked in the door and I was like, she's a real person.
Oh my gosh.
I got to meet you. I'm so excited. I've been binge watching your videos.
I always tell people, I'm like,
so
okay,
good.
So there is no shortage of content when it comes to my YouTube or any of my social media platforms, right? However, don't you dare use my content to numb out, right? Like,
yeah.
Because you can't, because people will be like, I went down the rabbit hole of Justine content. I was like, oh yeah, how long did you escape, numb, and avoid your life? Because I'm pretty sure that's not what I teach.
I like that. Actually, you really made me think, and that's what I loved. Because I was sitting there pondering things like courage and shame and self-worth, and you cover all of those things and more eloquently.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm wordy. And I have like this, I don't know, I have this story that was gifted to me, and most people will call it a hard, sad story. And I've chosen to do the work to make it a big story because I want to teach you how to walk in your truth.
I would love it if you would share that story today. So let's it started really at a very young age. You had some some challenges.
So I grew up a dancer, and small town Iowa, we're talking like no stoplight, kindergarten through 12th in one building, small town. One of my high school jobs was I milked cows. It's awesome. And so it was a small town. I was going to grow up and dance. I was going to go to the University of Iowa and dance. Like, that was the goal. And around age,
By the way, I grew up in a small town, and I was a ballerina, and I also was into dinosaurs. I was going to be a dancing paleontologist.
How were you going to combine those?
I don't know, but I was pretty determined that I was going to do it.
Those are big dreams. I really like it.
I know.
But like that small town, like I knew I needed to get out, right? And yet it's such an amazing way to grow up.
Yeah.
Like, it was. I love it. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I'm so grateful for it. My parents are still back there. And so it was, and really, because of what we went through as a family, I'm not sure it would have looked the same if we were in a bigger city. Right? So around age 11 is when I started to have pretty debilitating pain. And no one ever told me to stop dancing. And like you said earlier, you seem to be pretty determined. I'm a very determined person. But we really started down that whole path of what's wrong. We all knew something was wrong. And it took 1.5 years to find the diagnosis. And it was 3 misdiagnoses. That first one being at a very renowned hospital, and I could barely walk at that point, and they put me through some horrible tests, still to this day some of the most painful tests I've been through, and their conclusion was conversion hysteria, which back then is what they called it.
Right.
So now it's just psychosomatic. Your brain is making up the pain, and there's nothing physiologically wrong with you, which, let's be honest, I mean, this is like, especially what you do for a living, women get that a lot.
Yeah, they do. I've gotten that.
Right.
We have
had
to autoimmune conditions that, they were like, oh, well, some of it is just in your head.
It's in your head. Yep, exactly. And so that they told my 11-year-old self told my mom that she was making me dance, and then they sent me to a sports psychologist, and she taught me how to visualize the pain outside of my body. And I just remember being like 11 or 12, whatever it was, and kind of thinking like, what you do is really cool. And I filed it away, right? Like, but I'm going to dance. Like, I'm going to dance. And then there's a misdiagnosis of a tumor, which was quickly proven wrong. And then I was diagnosed that would have been 93, 94 with fibromyalgia, which back then we did not know what we know about fibromyalgia, and I was 12. So it was kind of a dump diagnosis. We don't know what's wrong with her. We're just going to put this label on it. And thankfully, a specialist came through the Quad Cities back home, and it took her 4 hours to go through my charts. And she comes out with a year-old x-ray in her hand, and she said the diagnosis, and we were like, we've never heard of that. She goes, you have a broken back. There's 2 cracks on L5, grade 4 slippage. It's the worst. You have to have surgery immediately. And so 2 weeks later, I had my first surgery at the University of Iowa. And back then, they didn't do what they do with titanium now. And they sure as heck didn't know what they know about physical therapy now, right? And so they stuck me in a body cast. So chest to knees for 6 months my freshman year of high school.
I would ask what that's like. I don't even know how you put that into words.
I don't know. Years ago, I wrote this blog post, like, a letter to the girl stuck in the darkness of a body cast. And it was prophetic for where my life was going, to be honest. In many aspects of it. And the biggest piece being what I teach to people now, and that skill set of empathy, because it's really hard to sit beside a 14-year-old girl stuck in a body cast and seek to understand her, because really you just kind of feel sorry for her. And yet when people felt sorry for me, I was just really even more alone, stuck in a body cast.
Right.
And so it was, and I learned a lot. Like we learned a lot about small town living and how the town rallied. And I also learned a lot about people really struggle to help people in pain. And some of them even disappear because it's too hard.
They don't know how to cope.
Right. They don't know how to cope.
How to relate.
We don't know how to talk about it.
No.
We don't know how to have tough conversations. And so 6 months body cast, and then they were like, it's fixed. It's fixed, right? Like, and then I tried to go back out for track my senior year, and I kept saying, like, they said I'd be even better than normal. Something's not right. I hadn't tried to go back to dance, but they were like, you can try to do track. And that's when we took the MRI and discovered that I was the 10%, where the surgery did not take. So we repeat the surgery my senior year, and I'm now in another body. It was a body brace that time, so it wasn't this like plaster cast, but it was still from chest to knees. I was standing or lying down. There's no bending at the waist for another 6 months. So it was, that used to be the part of my life that I first believed the lie of no one can help you, no one cares, you have to do this yourself, you're by yourself, no one will ever listen to you. And through the work that I've done, especially the last 7 years of my life, those are not our truth. They're not anybody's truth. They're definitely not my truth.
Absolutely, 100%.
Right.
That's a lot of what I talk about on a daily basis with people is do not give up. There is always hope. There's always something else that you can do. There's always
and you're never alone. You are never, ever alone. Ever. Someone has gone through something like this or has felt this way in your life. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's kind of like, that's only the first chunk of my story.
I know, that's only the first part. So I want to touch back on something there though. So when you were told at age 11, 12 that that this was in your head, how dangerous is that for people to be told something like that? I want to know your insights on what that does to a person.
It keeps you quiet. Like that's that first, I teach shame now for a living, really, and courage. And so what I didn't know then was that was this shaming piece of, you can't trust yourself. No one else is going to trust you. No one's going to help you or save you. And it was just that greatest lie of, you're in this by yourself. No one cares. And I always say, whenever I do speaking engagements, I say, I think one of the greatest lies being used against all of us by culture, by whatever you want, whatever you believe in, whatever it might be, is that you are alone. And we're not alone. We are wired for connection. We are meant to live in connection. It's scary and it's vulnerable and it's hard and you're going to get hurt and you can't fight it. It's not possible. The harder you fight it, the sicker you get.
Yeah, and I think that, it's separating from the herd, right?
Right.
We're not as strong when we're not together. And
No.
so, yeah, that's the adversary or whoever, whatever
Right.
force.
Whatever you want to call it, right?
That's what we do. We separate. Yeah. Okay,
But it's this like lack of trust, right? And how much is that already built in, especially for little girls?
Yeah.
But like, how much is that really built in? One of the teaches that I always do, I love, like when we're little, we ask, why, Mom? Why? And it's about this discovering our world and curiosity. And then I think it happens around age 4 because we become like little humans at age 4. I love 4-year-olds. I think they're awesome. But like all of a sudden it becomes like, why'd you do that? Well, why do you feel that way? And that only gets worse. And so like that piece of like, you're crazy. Nothing's really wrong with you. You're making this up. You're attention seeking, whatever it is. That message of you can't trust yourself. And not only can you not trust yourself, you have to defend why you feel. Like, and that's not courage. That's not wholehearted living. That's not walking in our truth or who we were created to be.
And I know for myself and so many other people out there, that's something we fight against in the mean girl in my head every single day.
Yes.
Every day.
Yep. Every day.
Yeah.
Be kind to yourself.
Oh, so important. It's so important.
Yes.
All right, so that was just, we'll say part 1.
That's chapter 1.
That's chapter 1. By the way, your books are amazing.
Thank you.
I'm still in the process of reading, but yeah, and I love what you came up with the phrase, the complicated gray, by the way.
I know.
A little more about that.
So I call it 2 different things, the complicated gray and the permission of the and. And so
I love that too.
Like my TED Talk is called The Permission of the And, but the book is The Complicated Gray. And it's just, it is the space between.
Yeah.
Like, it's the messy middle. It's the mucky gray. Like, because our brains are wired to stay simple. Judgmental also. Like, black, white, easy, hard, dark, light, whatever. I mean, just, these are your 2 choices. We're even taught it as children, like, the feelings chart, right? Like happy, sad, mad. Well, there's a lot of kinds of happy and a lot of kinds of sad and a lot of kinds of mad. And so through, after the back surgeries that kind of entered my husband and I into an infertility journey. And as we went through that, I discovered this place of like, I can feel more than one feeling at the same time. And what if we actually gave ourselves permission for that and the complicated gray, because it is there that, yep, it feels super uncomfortable and hard. And it is there where your healing and your magic lie. I know it is. I know it is.
And I think that in a society where we're told that we shouldn't ever feel sad, we shouldn't feel moody, we shouldn't feel bad, we should on ourselves.
You just
a
should
lot.
all over yourself.
Should
all
on ourselves
the time.
All the time. I know I always tell my clients, I'm like,
Shame,
don't
shame.
should on yourself. Don't do that. Yeah, it's just, it's painful to think there's so many people out there just popping a pill so they don't feel.
Oh yeah, or binging Netflix for 12 hours in a row,
Whatever it
or
is they do
eating
to them.
yucky food that's not medicine to their body, or drinking, or sex, or perfectionism, or worrying, or scheduling your kid, overscheduling your kids, living through your kids, people pleasing, caretaking, worrying. I mean, pick your poison. Most of us are armoring up because we think it protects us and shows this like perfect version to the world, and all it does is hide who you are from the people who really need to see you and want to see you because they love you. But we pick up the armor instead.
Yeah.
Because it does. It feels easier. I am uncomfortable all day, every day. Because I live this life of courage and wholehearted and vulnerability. I'm uncomfortable all day, every day. I choose to make it a little bit more comfortable with like self-care and discipline and all that stuff.
Yeah, and you're a huge proponent of self-care and filling yourself, because you do. You pour out constantly in trying to make the world and everyone just a little bit better.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So your infertility journey, though, brought you to... So, and by the way, you need to go look up the TED Talks that Justine has done. They're amazing. She's got 2. Yep. One's called The Donut Effect. We'll talk about that later. I hope we have time to get to that. Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
And then it's great. It was great, though. And then, of course, The Power of And.
Yep.
And you talk about your infertility journey.
Right.
And so my husband and I were blessed with one son, but we had a miscarriage before that.
Yep. So common.
And we had secondary infertility after that.
Oh, it's brutal.
And, and then with all of the health issues that I've had over the years, we just recently made the decision that we were like, we can't. And it's really hard to live in that space.
Brutal.
And I know so many people that are struggling with that decision. Yep. So tell us about your infertility journey and how do you live in the and?
Well, and it's interesting because this is the part that I always tell people, I'm going to tell you my story because you will never forget it, and it will help you be a better human and choose the skill set of empathy. Because this absolutely affects someone that you know. 1 in 8 couples struggles to conceive. It's really probably more like 1 in 6. We say 1 in 8 because of how our healthcare and insurance system works in this country, right? Like in Canada, it's 1 in 6, but they have universal healthcare, right? So more people are getting the diagnosis sooner, basically.
Gotcha.
So 1 in 8 couples struggles to conceive. 1 in 4 pregnancies will end in a loss. 25%. That is absolutely someone that you know. You know someone who has lost a pregnancy. And I don't even like to say the word lost, like lost a child. Like a child has died. Yeah. I don't care if it's you knew you were pregnant right away because you had to do infertility treatments, or if you didn't know for 8 to 12 weeks because you didn't have symptoms. Like, you dreamed of becoming a parent, you became a parent the minute you dreamed of it. Like, and especially the minute that you took one first action step to become that, right? Like, whether or not it's like, I think we're going to start trying, or you discover that you do have to have help having children. But so 1 in 4 ends in a loss. And then the statistic that is gut-wrenching and that the United States has not improved on at all. We're the only developed country that has not improved on this statistic. 1 in 160 pregnancies ends with a child born still. That's a lot of babies.
And I know some of those too.
Yeah. Yep. Me too. So this affects someone that you know. It is, it feels inherently wrong. I'm a woman. I'm supposed to be a mother. Not true. It's not true. And so when you feel like it's not working and you're not able to do what you're supposed to do and what society says you're supposed to do, I feel shame. I'm not enough. Who do you think you are? Small. Do I matter? Do people see me? I can't have kids, So I'm a very big advocate for speaking infertility and loss, because it takes a lot of bravery, and you will get more me too than ever before, and that's where healing will take place. And so because of because of my back surgeries, it was just never really recommended that I go have lots of babies, and I'd spent a year in a body cast. So I grew up most of my life convincing myself that I did not want to be a mother, because denial feels safer than disappointment. And then we decide okay, maybe we want to do this, and we start kind of researching, and we embarked on a surrogacy journey. And so, which is the whole IVF journey, I have to go through the meds to get my eggs because we wanted to do gestational surrogacy. We had to find a surrogate, pay a surrogate, had to give her all the meds to prep her body to then implant the embryos. And so it's kind of shocking, there's not a lot of people even know what an embryo is. Sperm meets egg, it makes an embryo. That is our baby. And science has allowed us to implant those at the right time. But through our journey, we really we had the money and the wherewithal for one round. And I never had great numbers. I probably knew it would not work because of what I had been through as an 11 to 14-year-old girl. And so that first round, we got 2 embryos. She never got pregnant. We lost both babies. So I have, they were 8-cell embryos. And to me, they are our children. To some people, they may just be 8-cell embryos in a petri dish, but they are what we got. And so one of the big things that I talk about, and you kind of already touched about, especially in the infertility and loss world, is you have to know what your enough and everything is. And this applies for any health journey, I think. How far are you willing to go? How much money? How much not listening to your intuition? How much time? What can you withstand to still hold on to yourself? Like, that is your enough and everything. And so we had only planned 1 round, and then you lose those 2 babies, and you realize that you just tried something that only has a 30% chance of working. Really. A healthy baby in your arms, 30% chance. Stats are not in our favor. And so we were lucky enough to get a loan to try one more time. And it did not work. And so we lost another embryo. And so, 3 lost babies later, $30,000. The bank is empty. Our hearts are broken. And that's when we made our decision that this is our enough and everything. And we will choose to find and fight for and create and ask and receive other ways to parent, because we do not feel called to adoption. And that's hard to say sometimes, because that is a lot of people's automatic response. Why don't you just adopt or just try another round? And it's not malicious. It's just because a lot of people struggle with big stories like mine. It's hard to sit across from a woman who wanted to be a mom and doesn't get to be, right? You just want to fix my pain.
They want to help.
They want to help. But there is not a quick fix or a simple solution to any of this, no matter what the pain is. There's not. And so, that's my lesson to people. Choose the skill set of empathy. Come sit beside me and say, that sucks. I'm so glad you told me. But when you say things like, oh, I just can't imagine, you poor thing, or you offer this quick fix of adoption, I feel even more alone. And I am already alone as a 40-year-old woman who can't have kids. I'm almost always the only one everywhere I go. And when you choose to lean in with vulnerability and choose the skill set of empathy to say, I don't know what to say, can I just sit with you? That's connection, that's power, and that's where we will heal.
Yeah.
But it's hard.
It is.
And super uncomfortable,
hard.
Right?
It is. There are moments I've learned that skill well as a coach.
Yes.
And as a friend. After coaching school and seeing how that helped people, I started doing that as a friend. But prior to that, that was not my inclination.
No. Because we just want to fix it.
Yeah.
We feel like that.
It's like, I love you. I want to help you. How can I help you? What are some things we could do?
Right.
And I'm a doer.
Me too.
Yeah. I learned that about you as I was binging.
I'm a total overfunctioner.
Yeah.
Doer. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And it's hard to just let that go and go, you know what? There is nothing I can do here. That
we don't have to hustle.
And it's okay.
Or strive for this or fix people's pain. It's not our job.
Right.
It's really not our job. Yeah. But it's it's difficult because it's also kind of how we're trained in our society. Yeah. I'm so sorry. Oh, you poor thing. Bless your heart. And then we offer a quick solution. And that's healing will never take place in disconnection. And those responses are disconnection.
Yeah, absolutely. I could talk to you all day, and I really want to. I'm hoping I can talk to... Do you have another half hour?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes. Yeah. All right. Well, so we're going to record another episode.
Okay.
Right now, we've just got a couple minutes left on this one, and I want to make sure for anyone that is listening live that we touch on what you're doing now, because you've transitioned in your work. So a couple minutes, talk about, your new mission.
Well, I'm a therapist by trade, so that, that psychologist that they made me see at 12 years old planted a seed, and I'm a nerd and have always studied psychology ever since because of trauma, right? When you experience trauma, you didn't get choice in the trauma. You do get choice of how you will heal. And trauma sometimes also takes away a lot of that choice in the healing process. I think, again, that there's that and part. I think we have to remember that grace part of healing trauma. But so for the last 20 years, I have been practicing in some capacity of traditional mental health. So I started my career working with clients who struggle with substance abuse, and then I stumbled into working with clients who struggle with eating disorders, which that kind of leads me down the road of anxiety and depression in private practice. And then we go through our infertility journey. And once I did my work, because I got to do my work, and went back to my therapist, I could then really start serving in the grief, loss, and infertility world. And so around that time is when I discovered Brene Brown. And so after we ended our journey and I was in the deepest, darkest hole of grief ever, it was time to dig out. And I Googled and I found Brene's TED Talk and realized I met criteria to be certified by her. So I've been certified under Brene Brown for the last 7 years, and she's a shame and vulnerability researcher. So now, the last year, I've been working more in the corporate realm and leadership, and everyone's a leader, so it doesn't even need to be this big corporation because everyone has influence over people, right? But like this piece of like, how do we teach the skills of courage?
Well, and we're going to talk a lot more about that on the next episode, so come back next week. And how can people follow you online?
Well, I'm easy to find. Justine Froelker is really easy to find. I share unique content on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook, and my website, JustineFroelker.com. And I also have a ton of YouTube stuff.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on today. It's been amazing. I can't wait for you to stick around and see the next episode. This is Amanda LaPlante. You've been listening to Get Real to Heal on KWRH-LP at 92.9 FM. And for more information from me, go to AmandaLaPlante.com. Make it a great day. Woo.
I'm wordy.
It's amazing. I love it.
That was the most views we've ever had on Instagram Live.